Welcome back to the Brain Soul Success Show, everyone, where we take back our power. You're in for an awesome treat today. I have with me Dean Graves. He is a spiritual teacher and author. He's a podcaster. He's written 4 books. He's really worked for 2 decades now with meditation and mindfulness instruction. He's conducted lots of workshops on this and group sessions on self-healing, personal growth, guiding individuals on their journeys toward greater self awareness and enlightenment. His interest in spirituality and self improvement really led him to produce an internationally successful spiritually podcast and a series of YouTube videos as well. He's written these 4 books and he has a new one coming out. I know we're going to hear about that today. They're just a treasure full of insights and techniques that will help individuals really unlock their full potential. So there's really this beautiful journey on greater success and personal growth. He is a devoted student of the sixth dynasty. How do you say
Density.
it? Dynasty?
Density.
Density. He's a creator. Sorry about that. Creator being entity. So he is a master teacher. He's so inspiring. I can't wait for you to hear and learn a little bit more about, Dean Graves today. So welcome to the podcast, Dean.
Thank you, Louise. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. So like you've done all this work on consciousness. Can you even give us like a definition? What is consciousness?
I'll give you the definition, which will require some unpacking for most
Okay.
people.
Okay, great.
Consciousness is our creatorness intoxicated with free will.
Okay.
And to understand that, consciousness is, let me explain the beginning of consciousness.
Okay.
All that we experience is consciousness. There's nothing that we can experience that is not consciousness, including ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And creation began with a desire on the part of the one infinite creator. And that desire was to know itself and by the wisdom of the creator to experience itself. If you're all that is, if you're infinite, all that is difficult to experience other than your oneness. And so the creator created an environment in which it projected itself as an analog projection of itself. And it did that by creating the concept of free will. And most philosophers for centuries have debated whether we have free will, what free will is, so on and so forth. And it's an endless debate with every new generation of philosophers.
Mm-hmm.
But free will is misunderstood. It is not that we have the choice to turn right or to turn left or whatever the multitude of choices that we have in the course of the day. That is all the product of free will. Free will is the perception of separation. And so, by virtue of projecting this perception of separation, the creator first created the creator as the subject, which was equivalent to the creator, the only distinction being that it was conceptual, number one, as an analog projection, but it also perceived itself as separate from the creator. And so, by the one infinite creator observing the projection of itself that had free will, it perceived of itself as separate,
Mm-hmm.
began to interpret its interactions and experiences separate or distinctly different from what the creator, as the object, the ultimate creator, perceived itself to be. And so that was the nucleus for the beginning of creation. The creator is the subject, being a analog projection,
Mm-hmm.
had the same desires as the creator is the object. And so began to create what we perceive to be creation. And everything within creation is the creator as the subject in experiencing itself. And ultimately, the creator is the object experiencing itself. But the same process the creator is the object used in order to create the creator as the subject was replicated as fractals throughout all that we perceive as creation. So the densities, the divided, the consciousness is um, divided into layers. The creator as the subject is deemed to be the eighth density
Oh, I
and is
see.
undistorted,
Okay.
other than the perception of separation.
Mhm.
The seventh density is a fractal of eighth density, which is still the creator as the subject, but the seventh density has a greater intoxication of free will. And so it perceives itself more distinctly separate
Mhm.
than the eighth density. Sixth density, again, is an additional fractal. And
Okay.
the seventh, sixth, seventh, and eighth densities are deemed to be creator beings because they create everything below that. Fifth
Mhm.
density is again a fractal by increasing the degree of free will, which it serves as an intoxicant. It has the same effect as if you went out and drank a bunch of whiskey. What it does is it reduces your awareness. When you're intoxicated, your awareness is reduced. So you do stupid things that you wouldn't do if you weren't intoxicated.
Right.
You
Mhm.
enact more independently. And this
Mhm.
goes all the way down to first density. We, the human population, is a third density experience. And so we
Mhm.
are heavily intoxicated. The fifth, fourth, and third densities are deemed to be experiential densities. And the first and second density are deemed to be foundational densities. First
Okay.
density is inorganic matter and essentially is divided into the four elements: fire, water, atmosphere, and matter, what we deem to
Okay.
be white matter.
Mhm.
Second density is organic beings, plant and animal.
Uh-huh.
We are in third. We are the first range of consciousness that has the potential for enough awareness to actually assume responsibility for our evolution. And
Okay.
we will progress through our consciousness evolution to fourth and fifth density and eventually back to source.
Okay, I love this conversation or what you're describing to me, because I do some energy work that works in the field and it goes 7 generations back and 7 forward.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm feeling is you're describing the density layers to me here, and a lot of people listening may know that work is the different it's the different layers of I guess it's the different layers of where we are on the planet. I mean, we're like you said, we're in the third density, but we can go to different dimensions. Can you say if is density the same as a dimension or is it different?
Well, it's different. If you
Okay.
understand that a density is a mile and a dimension is an inch,
Okay,
so
got it. Okay. It's
so
bigger. It's
we
much
we are
bigger.
progressing through the density, and
Mm-hmm.
we will at one point graduate from third density and go to fourth density, which is also divided in inches.
How does quantum physics
But it
fit with
is
this? Does quantum physics fit with this?
well,
How would you describe that or how it interacts with all this?
quantum physics deals with the physical. All of science deals with the physical.
Mm-hmm.
All of our experience is actually conceptual. There's nothing that we can experience that does not come to us in thought. And
Mm-hmm.
so our mind actually is the determinant of the nature of our experience and influences the nature of um, matter, as well as
Sure.
plants and animals.
Uh-huh.
And so, understanding that it is all conceptual, physics of any type is our effort to interpret the influences and the nature of the different layers of consciousness. Quantum physics,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they realize this, but they are actually trying to understand the basis of consciousness. And there is
Mm-hmm.
um, dark energy and there is light energy or white matter, it's usually referred to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, both are consciousness. There is no space, there's no vacancy in creation. It's all consciousness, but it is all
Mhm.
conceptual. So it's very difficult for us to understand the nature of of dark energy because
Mhm.
it doesn't have the characteristics of white matter that we is what we can see and feel and touch and so forth.
Right, right. No, that makes a lot of sense to me. And yet it's very philosophical. You're really describing some deep concepts here. And our listeners, I hope you're like paying attention and listening to every word Dean is saying here because I want you to get it, Um, because there's so much structure. What is the structure then of of the creation and its whole purpose?
Well, the purpose is to, um, we are the creator experiencing ourselves at this range of consciousness, which
Mm-hmm.
means we are heavily intoxicated with free will. And we
Okay.
perceive ourselves as autonomous beings.
Uh-huh.
As we evolve through the consciousness levels, then healing is the healing of our distortions of perception. So as we evolve through this density, then the authenticity of our perception of self diminishes, and we actually um, begin to surrender the authenticity of the physical. As
Okay.
we progress into fourth density, the measure of our progress will be the further surrendering of this hierophant, this perception of self that we create,
Mhm.
and greater unification. In order to move from fourth density to fifth density, we will surrender our perception of autonomous self and form what is called a social memory complex. So
Mhm.
others who have advanced to the degree that we will perceive that as our autonomous being until we progress further. And that further is surrendering and allowing ourselves to be more in unity with all of the other consciousness. And that is the process.
Uh-huh.
But in this range of consciousness, we are intensely intoxicated with this free will. So we are working on the self
Mhm.
as the entity that we are trying to heal from our distortions of perception of self.
Got it. So where are we on the planet now? Percentage of people are where, are they still stuck in that total free will place, or do you feel like we're becoming more conscious even as a planet in a sense?
Well, that requires some explanation too.
Okay.
Uh, the the experience, a third density experience, a lasts for a specified period of time, approximately 76,000 years. And
Okay.
so most of the population that occupies Earth has had a very difficult time evolving. And
Mhm.
so we just finished our fifth attempt to graduate to fourth density.
Okay.
And we have cycled for a number of reasons within the lower dimensions of the density. And
Mm.
in an ideal design for a third density experience, you begin a third density experience, everybody begins at essentially a 0 point. And
Mhm.
through your experiences, you evolve through that. Some members evolve more quickly than others, but as those within the density progress, they serve as models for the rest of the population.
Okay.
We're
Mhm.
all motivated to get more of what we like, but we begin not knowing what we like. Absolute zero, you don't know anything. It's described as being primordial darkness, not because it's a bad place, it's just you have no information and you have very little awareness.
Sure.
And so
Mhm.
as we have experiences, we gain additional information. We have experiences, we interpret those by feeling, and we determine more succinctly what it is that we like.
Mhm.
Invariably, what we like is what we would determine to be love. But we begin this process not knowing what love is either. So we have to figure out what love is.
Mhm.
And Love is not an emotion. We perceive love to be an emotion. Love is a condition of being. So when we have
Mm.
felt love in our life, the reason that we have felt love is the person or the people or the situation that we're in has given us permission to surrender our false perception of self, and we have felt who we really are. And so that is
Oh.
the course of our evolution. We will surrender, we create the perception of separation,
Mhm.
this false identity of self. And as we evolve, we will surrender that, allowing ourselves to feel greater happiness because we experience more of our authentic self.
Yes. Yes. And I'm going to guess that through your meditation, your teaching, and your work, you help people get to that surrendering place where they can feel and be more their authentic self.
That's my objective. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And
Yes.
that in itself, enlightenment is synonymous with the evolution of consciousness. It's not a
Okay.
destination. We perceive because of the Buddha's experience that
Mm.
enlightenment is a destination, but
Right.
it's not a destination, it's the entire process. So everyone
Okay.
is enlightened to the degree they have allowed themselves to become enlightened.
Right. Right. That makes total sense. Absolutely. It's a personal transformation journey, isn't
It
it?
is,
And we're all
absolutely.
on the journey and it doesn't end.
It doesn't end. Well, it eventually it'll end, but it's way in the future
Yeah, it almost feels
for
like,
us.
I used to think I had this analogy of, climbing Success Mountain. I took my kids on this hike and we'd get to, like feel like we're going to reach the top. You're going to reach this beautiful place where you can, just be free or whatever it is. It's not like that. It's a journey.
It
It's
is,
a,
and the
it's a
journey
journey.
itself is what is supposed to be enjoyable.
Yes.
And because of the cycling that our planetary experience has endured for so long, we've lost sight of that, and we don't
Mhm.
enjoy the journey. We perceive that things are going to be different tomorrow. Well, things can be different today if you change that perception of self and
Yes.
surrender. You allow yourself to become more vulnerable because you're surrendering this facade, this hierophant that we create, that we offer to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a beautiful, I love the journey of this, the personal growth journey and journey of enlightenment. And this kind of work and conversation. What is actually then the connection between like the physical and the metaphysical? Do those
Okay.
connect somewhere? Yeah.
Well, we exist simultaneously in both the metaphysical world and the physical world.
Hmm.
And I explain it to people, if you imagine that we're on a sports team
Okay.
and we practice all week long, and then on Friday night we have a game.
Hmm.
And the physical world is the game. And so we practice all week long, and then we go to the game, we do our best. And then after the game, the coach looks at us and says, okay, we're going to practice some more of this next week. And so we go back and we practice. We
Hmm.
look at game films, we review what we were going to do and what we did actually and what we need to do better the next time. And
Hmm.
then when we're ready, we play another game. And so the physical world is just the game. Our enduring self is our metaphysical self, and that is a consciousness pattern that we also create based upon our interpretation of experiences that we um, conduct while we're in the game, while we're in the physical world.
Hmm.
And so the average human on earth has had over 3,000 incarnations, some as many as 8,000. And
Mm.
so we continually incarnate. We take what we have learned from that incarnation that amends our consciousness pattern, and it's our consciousness pattern that is actually evolving through creation. We
Got it.
again have a perception of self that is very intoxicated in our metaphysical self, but we don't have any of the restrictions. We don't have the forgetting of our past lives and all of those things. And we have direct guidance from our higher self and other counselors, for lack of a better description in
Mhm.
the metaphysical world. Metaphysical world is very active. It is very a very busy place. It's a school for us at this range of consciousness.
Mhm.
And we can contact, it is available to us, but we have to surrender that perception, that false self, enough in order to allow ourselves to tune to that and have that communication.
Okay, I can see that. And it's a place of being. It's a place of beingness, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Almost like when you're in a meditative state.
You can go there, yes, and that
Hmm.
when you go deeply into meditation, and I describe this to my students that we uh, existing in both the metaphysical world and the physical world, when you practice your meditation and go deeply into meditation, you're essentially going into the guru's cave, which is that metaphysical perception of self. When
Hmm.
you get through with the meditation, you have to come back into the village. We're in the village right now. All problems exist within the village. And so the meditation affords us the opportunity to have a change of perspective. When you go on, it's very similar to going on vacation. You work all year long, then you go on vacation. It takes you 2 or 3 days to get out of that work mode, and then you get relaxed. You come back from vacation. The same problems exist after vacation than as did before, but
Hmm.
your perspectives are different. And so what was a problem before gets relatively often easily resolved because you've changed, not that the problems have changed. And
Hmm.
so meditation allows us to have that shift in perspective. So what we perceive to be problems in the village transforms because we have transformed.
Right. Right. And then how do you help people transform through this enlightenment process? I mean, everybody wants it quicker today, right? It's almost like if you take the green pill, you can get there. I mean, it's a world like that. That's the three density part of our world, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
how would you help somebody, on their path of really getting closer to their authentic self and that consciousness place?
okay. Well, again, it's a process. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that you do work with trauma. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about trauma specifically because that is a different item, and I'm going to set that aside for right now.
Okay.
But the process of our evolution, we have a curriculum that we have to fulfill in order to graduate from this range of consciousness. And
Okay.
it is not an academic curriculum, it is a spiritual curriculum. What is preserved after a lifetime is what we have learned about 5 inherent characteristics of the Creator. And that includes awareness, love, wisdom, unity, and stillness. That is
Okay.
what is preserved from lifetime to lifetime. That is what is shaping this consciousness pattern that is our enduring self.
Okay.
And so when we are incarnate, we begin a new incarnation. An infant begins at the condition of your consciousness pattern prior to your incarnation. So if you've evolved significantly, that's where you begin the new lifetime. If you're still in
Mm-hmm.
the lower dimensions of the density, that's where you begin the lifetime. And
Mm-hmm.
that determines to a large degree the nature of your experience during an incarnation and the choice of um, uh, lifetimes that are of life experiences that you're going to have. And
Mm-hmm.
so we begin having experiences. Every experience that we don't like, that we don't get more of what we like, is a message to us about what within us we need to become aware of and heal.
Sure.
And that is
Mm-hmm.
stress.
Mm-hmm.
Stress is any experience that we don't like. And it
Mm-hmm.
is different from person to person because every person is a different place in their process.
Sure.
And so if we don't learn the lesson at the time that the lesson is delivered to us or that
Mm-hmm.
we encounter the experience, that simply means that we didn't do our homework. That's a homework
Okay.
assignment that we get to keep in the form of emotion. over a
Oh,
period of time, we accrue a fairly significant amount of homework that we didn't do.
got it.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so that creates emotional baggage, becomes
Yes.
weight that we have to carry.
Mhm.
And if you imagine that, if you remember from school, you had a homework assignment and you had a specific textbook that went with that homework assignment.
Mhm.
You had to carry that textbook until you did your homework, and then you get to put the textbook down. You don't have to pick it up again.
Mhm.
Same is true with the lessons that have come to us, the messages that have come to us. If we don't do our homework, then we've got a
Mhm.
textbook that we have to carry.
Mhm.
You don't do your homework for 30 days, you have a lot of textbook that you have to carry with you.
Yes.
That becomes heavy when people experience depression, when they experience feeling blah.
Mhm.
What they feel, the common denominator is it all feels heavy. So
Yes.
you have to ask, what could possibly feel heavy? You're carrying this emotional baggage. You have a certain amount of energy. We all have the same potential amount of energy available to us.
Mhm.
But if you're diverting a large portion of that energy to carrying that emotional baggage, then you don't have enough energy to run the other systems of your body, your mind, your body, and so forth.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so the task is to first heal that emotional baggage. In other words, learn the lessons that were brought to you through your life experiences, get
Yes.
rid of those textbooks,
Mhm.
and becoming aware of the beliefs that you've incorporated into your hierophant that are causing you perpetual stress. So
Yes.
it's a two-stage process, but they're not mutually exclusive. In other words, when you begin to heal the emotional baggage, your awareness escalates because the energy fuels your awareness, and you become aware of the beliefs that you've incorporated into your false identity that are
Mhm.
perpetuating your stressful experiences. And that is the entire process of evolution through this range of consciousness: is become aware,
Mhm.
point that awareness inside instead of pointing it outside of us, heal the emotional baggage,
Mhm.
and then begin to surrender those beliefs that have created your hierophant that you've incorporated either by osmosis or direct decision. You put these beliefs into your hierophant. That's the
Yes.
lens through which you interpret your experiences. You know,
Yes.
when I work with patients,
Mhm.
the first thing we do is work on traumas, because traumas are different from a difficult experience. And if
Mhm.
you understand that we perceive an experience to last some period of time, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, some period of time,
Mhm.
but each individual thought is a complete experience, and every perceived experience is comprised of dozens of thoughts, if not more.
Right.
And we are obligated with every thought to make a decision about that thought. Does this thought feel good and I like it, or does it not feel good and I don't like it?
Mhm.
We can't go to the next thought until we make that decision. That is a complete emotion. We perceive
Mm.
emotions to be one of 1,000 different words of interpretation, but those are all conditions of being that we are in at the time that we encounter the experience.
Mhm.
The emotion is very simple: either I like it or don't like it because it feels good or it doesn't feel good. When
Mhm.
we experience a situation that is extremely difficult for us, extremely strong, it challenges, what it does is doing is it's challenging our perception of self to the point that we feel unstable. When people experience, um, say, a tornado we were alluding to earlier in our conversation, destroys your home and maybe kills one or two people in your family, it's really traumatic.
Dramatic.
They
Mhm.
oftentimes enter a condition of shock.
Yes.
What shock is their awareness has left their body, literally left their body. And when we experience, in order to heal from that shock, you have to direct them incrementally to bring that awareness back inside their body.
Mhm.
When we experience a traumatic situation, a situation that we interpret as traumatic, individual thoughts within that experience have the same effect. In other words, for that one thought, your awareness leaves the body and you don't make that decision of either I like it or don't like it because it was too much of a challenge to your hierophant.
Got it. Yep.
When you have someone that has experienced a trauma,
Mhm.
and they know this, you can direct them to this, find the experience. I want you to scan through the experience. You don't have to relive it, but you have
Mhm.
to find the peak moments of your emotion where your emotion is the strongest.
Yes.
And through a number of very simple procedures, have them direct their awareness to that thought, that moment, freeze
Mm.
that in time. And when they do that, they're able, not being in that stressful situation anymore, to assign that value of either I like it or don't like it.
I
When you
see.
do that, that clears the entire trauma. I've never found anyone that has had more than four thoughts within a perceived experience that they needed to clear. And that's extreme experience. And
Got
it
it.
heals the whole trauma.
That makes sense to me because I do a lot of that work too.
Well,
Where I
it's
clear I do the same thing. I take them to that place of really seeing it,
mhm.
feeling it, and then I know that we have to clear shock to heal.
Yeah.
So we've
So
got to
when
get those
they
shock moments done, cleared.
it can be only one thought in that entire
Mhm.
experience that causes them to interpret that whole experience as a trauma. And that's what causes the changes to our physical being. They document the changes to the brain as for people that have experienced extreme shock.
Mhm.
All of that heals when you heal these traumas, because
Absolutely.
your body is a manifestation of your mind. It tells the body how to be. So as you heal these perceptions, the
Mhm.
body heals.
You know what? I have a question for you because I clear ancestral trauma too.
Hmm.
So I go back in the ancestral line and find out what was going on.
Hmm.
And I think we carry that too. And so when we clear those ancestral traumas, that also like allows that person to really heal and come back to more their authentic self. I call it 100% their soul's truth
Hmm.
because we don't even know that we're carrying that in our energetic field. Like great great grandfathers, like for example, maybe poverty. Right? People wanna have,
Hmm.
create wealth, whatever their goal is or intention is, but they're still holding on to not just their parents' idea of what money is, but they're
Hmm.
also carrying the poverty from their great, 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 grandpa, grandma. And when we clear the trauma of that and the shock that those people had, that's still in that person's energy field, it allows them again to be more 100% their soul's truth, their authentic self, you could call it, so they can create what they want in their lives.
Yeah, but understand that our metaphysical self is not incarnating in what we perceived a family history.
Okay.
The
Okay.
condition, it is very probable that metaphysical self will incarnate into a family that will provide them with the environment and the nature of experiences for the consciousness pattern that is that individual
Mhm.
will learn what they need to learn to heal.
Yes.
We perceive as experiences to be unique to an individual, and the emotions are unique, but these emotions are in a pool. In other words, as you heal, I describe it to people like it's a 300-pound ball of concrete.
Okay.
It is absolutely permissible. There's no reason why you can't set that whole ball of concrete down at one time, but
Mhm.
it's very improbable because in that ball of concrete of all of your undone homework, your life experiences
Yes.
that you haven't
Yes.
resolved. And
Right.
so there is much learning in taking chunks of that ball of concrete out one at a time as there was in putting that ball of concrete together with that pool of emotions.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And so from a hereditary standpoint, it is improbable that a person has that same lineage that we perceive to be genetic, but it
Mhm.
is very probable that another spirit that has that same list of curriculum items to learn will
Mhm.
incarnate in that family lineage in order to have the nature of those experiences.
Right. I see what
That
you're
makes
saying.
sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, absolutely makes sense. That's just so cool. I love the whole journey of personal growth just like you do and
Mm-hmm.
consciousness and helping people through these. And like you said, you have to clear the traumas first,
Yeah.
you know?
Those are the big
Mm.
hickeys. But you can
Yep.
get every one of those traumas gone, and then you're just
Mhm.
working on the emotional baggage.
Right.
And it's like people have difficulty getting started because it's like pushing a car from a dead stop. Once
Mhm.
you get it rolling, though, you've got momentum. And the
Right.
same is true with the healing. They have more energy to have more awareness to do more healing. And so the healing process accelerates as they
Yes.
progress.
Yes, I love that part. I love watching that in people. I don't know, that just gets me so excited. And to
Yeah.
see that
Right.
energy ball going and to see that that light finally coming in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sure you love that. You love that too.
I,
Well, tell
I,
it.
I, I
Yeah.
love the look of people's face when you clear the trauma or guide them to feel the trauma. And they
Mhm.
just, what happened? Where'd it go? And it takes them a while to figure it out. Wait, it's really gone. They can't find it anymore. And so
Yes.
that is the most exciting part for me. I'll tell you a brief little story. I had a guy that was a Vietnam vet,
Mhm.
and he rolled into my office in a wheelchair, and he hadn't walked for about 10 years, but there was not really physically anything wrong with him. They couldn't really figure anything wrong,
Mhm.
but he had lots of traumas from Vietnam. And
Mhm.
I worked with him for an hour, and we cleared some of the traumas. He had a lot more work to do after the session, but he, for the first time in 10 years, was able to walk, pushing his wheelchair, holding on his wheelchair out of my office. First time he'd walked in 10
Nice.
years. And it was
Oh.
nothing more than alleviating the traumas and this emotional baggage that so suppressed his energy that he could no longer run his body on his available energy.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. Yeah, I love that. Congratulations. Isn't that just so fun? Yeah,
Oh,
I
it
just,
is. And it makes you feel good,
yeah, I mean, he
as a
got his life
practitioner.
back, his walk back. That's so cool. Hey, where are we going though in this new age of enlightenment? What tips do you have for people here to begin that whole journey of consciousness, I guess, if they're because everybody's going to be listening or are going to be at different places, right?
Everybody's going to be in a different place, and
Different
Earth is in
place.
a very unique uh, situation right now. And it is not something that is frequently experienced in all of creation. The planet itself has its own consciousness and has moved into fourth density. We have essentially two densities, the residual of the recently completed third density experience and the
Hmm.
beginning of a fourth density experience that right now are intermingled.
Okay.
That is quickly coming to an end, and the perceptions of Earth, not physically, but spiritually, are going to split.
Ah,
And the fourth density experience will be its own experience, still Earth. Third density experience will begin a new third density experience. They will fairly quickly, not overnight or anything like that, but relative perceptions of time, will operate independently, will no longer interact.
oh, interesting.
The children that have been born, the overwhelming majority of children that have born since the mid 2000s are fourth density graduates, fourth density children.
Ah, nice.
And if you the things that we're experiencing, like um, the campus protests that were going on
Hmm.
all over the place, are these elementary fourth density children that are no longer going to put up with the deviousness that has evolved in third density.
Ah, good.
And so But we're going to split, and people
Are
are
we?
being pressed to make a decision, and that decision is, are they going to assume responsibility for their own advancement, consciousness advancement?
I see.
But a more strategic decision is whether they are going to polarize service to self or service to others,
Oh.
which is a major decision to graduate from third density.
Mm-hmm.
If you're polarizing service to self, then you are choosing to enhance this hierophant, this perception of separation. If you're
Ah,
choosing service to others, then you are choosing to align with the creator.
got
And
it.
that we've all been mixed up in third
Mm-hmm.
density, which is normal. And we've had a lot of conflicts as a result of that. But having to make that decision because of the decision point of this division of
Mm-hmm.
functioning density Earths is down to um, the wire. It's down to the next 5 or 6 years.
Right. I can see that. It feels different to me. I mean, I'm an energy worker too, and I just feel the shift happening. Of course, a lot of the people I speak with, and probably people listening here, are in service.
Mm-hmm.
They're serving people in some way.
Well,
That to,
because you attract that.
because that's what I'm doing. Exactly. So
they
those are
they
my,
feel that resonance with you, and so they're naturally attracted to you.
So that's the tribe, that's the tribe that I, attract. And yeah, I mean I love that part, and I can see what you're saying, that there's going to be a division here and a split
Yeah.
between what people are serving. I already sort of see that. That's happening for sure. Yeah.
Well, you see it on, if you do nothing else but look on the TikTok and YouTube at these children 3 and 4 years old playing Mozart, without error.
Yes.
Uh, they think everybody should do this. This is just the natural way things are
Right. They've come
because they're
in.
fourth density children. They don't understand our awe at their capacity because it's natural for them.
Hmm.
And that those things are going to become more evident, but most evidently is the divisions and the social structures that we have become accustomed to for
Hmm.
so many years, and that migration of the lower consciousness and higher consciousness until they just don't interact anymore.
Right. Right. Oh, that's exciting though to see. I mean, to be a part of this, right? To be a part of this time period.
Well, we all wanted to be here. We signed up for this and we
Mhm.
waited in line. We got there at 3 o'clock in the morning for the new iPhone to come out. And this is the new iPhone. We're waiting for this new appearance.
Yeah, we sure are. It's really, really exciting. Hey, tell us about your new book. I'm excited for your new book.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
the new book hits the bookshelves August 30th, and it's called The Enigma of Consciousness: A Spiritual Exploration of Humanity's Relationship to Creation. And it explains in great detail all the things that we've touched upon here.
Hmm.
We have an archetypical mind, which is essentially a blueprint for how we process thought and
Hmm.
why we create this hierophant. It goes into significant detail. It describes each of the densities and the characteristics of the densities and why they have a specific function or purpose. And it most importantly gives us perspective of who we are in relation to creation and why we are here. We are all here with the same purpose, which is to explore ourselves. What differs is our mission. Our mission is how we either serve or don't serve, and how we pursue the learning of the five inherent characteristics that we talked about earlier.
Nice. Oh, that's going to be awesome. Oh my gosh. So how can people get it's August 30th. Um,
It'll be in bookshelves August 30th, supposedly everywhere. It'll be available for pre-order 1st of August.
and
And,
how can we get a
they're
hold of that? How can we pre-order your book?
just contact your local bookstore,
Okay.
and it's in the process. It's publishing is a very complicated business,
I understand.
but yeah,
Absolutely.
it'll be available. You can just contact your local bookstore and order it from your local bookstore.
And I will have all that in the show notes. So if you're listening here today, you have an opportunity to get Dr. or to get Dean's new book here coming out. And my gosh, this has been such an awesome conversation. I almost feel like we have to do part two sometime.
And I'm available. I love talking about this stuff and sharing this information. So I'm
Yeah, this
available whenever you deem it necessary
I
or appropriate.
I love this. So thank you for the good work that you're doing in the world.
Well, thank you. And
Yeah,
likewise, in looking at all that you're doing.
you're helping so many people, and this is such an important conversation for the time that we're in on our planet. So, again, I want to thank you for being here, Dean, with us today. And remember, everyone, check out Dean's book for sure. We'll put it in the show notes. Remember to rate and subscribe and review, and let us know what you're thinking. And if you have any questions for Dean or myself here, we want to know that too. And remember, everyone, follow your heart and take your brain with you.